What do you think of the Ethics Committee recommendation that the Prime Minister should have to sell their portfolio since a blind trust is not true divestment?
I agree. I mean, we've never seen a Prime Minister so conflicted as Mark Carney. He has ownership of a company that has been described as Canada's single biggest tax dodger.
Single biggest tax dodger? Yes, that's Mark Carney. Welcome, everybody. You're watching KRAYDEN'S Right. Stand on guard. Happy Saturday. And Trees 14. I didn't know you were from Ottawa. Well, thanks for watching. I know you're a faithful, loyal supporter. So nice to have another like-minded person in Ottawa. Sometimes it's hard to find. We'll be back in mere moments with more.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need the resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
And we do it live here every day. Thanks for being here. Oh, yeah. Good morning, Jody Patron. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Eva, or is it Eva? Chase. Good afternoon, Dave and everyone. I'll say hello to Leaves Turcotte. Good morning from Alberta. Say good morning. Yep. Carla Mannix. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you here. Hello from Toronto. Well, hey, that's great. Nice audience today. So we'll be talking a bit about what I was talking about yesterday. Carney's blowing our relationship with the United States. And, of course, he's blown the trade deal. There is no question. Oh, I'm just going to show a few more of these here. Good morning from Huntsville. Oh, Gary Woodley. Good morning. Banya up. Good morning, Mark. Mikey. Hi, David from Hamilton. Rugrat. Good morning from Vaughan. Good morning from somewhere. David W. Carlson. This is great. Good morning from Victoria, BC. I'll be out on Vancouver Island in a couple of weeks. About 2 weeks from today, my mom's memorial service will be held in, well, I'm going to be talking about it because all are welcome. It's going to be at the Riverside Pentecostal Church in Mission. It used to be called Mission Pentecostal Church. It's on 7th Avenue in Mission, British Columbia. It was the last church my mother attended. I actually attended there for a while, too. When I was running for a nomination quite a few years back, I was living in Mission, BC. And that was the last church my mother. Good morning from Burlington. Well, hi from Mooseland. This is wonderful. Thank you. Hi, what are you talking about today? Talking about Carney's con job. And there's a story out of BC, which I just can't wait to get at. But anyway, I better get over to my media asset side here. And hope you're having a great weekend. Weather is nice here in Ottawa, as Trees 14 pointed out. I might get out and get some sun today. It's been kind of cool. But like I say, I will be out in British Columbia, starting in Chilliwack, going to Mission later that day for the memorial service, 1 p.m. Then I'm going to be going up to the Sunshine Coast to stay with a friend. Susie, you know who you are. And that's probably going to be a week, 2 weeks today, May the 8th or May the 9th. I can probably get up there for May the 8th because the memorial service is relatively early. So I'd like to get up there for Saturday night. Then I'm going to Vancouver Island, and I'll be staying with friends there. Kelly, I got to contact you about that. Thank you for your kind offer to find a place for me to stay. And I'm going to bring my mom's ashes to the cemetery in Courtenay, British Columbia. My hometown is Comox, but of course, Comox was always the bedroom community to Courtenay. God only knows what they look like now. I haven't been there for over a decade. It's been terrible. And I can't wait. To a certain degree, I'm almost hesitant because you know that old expression, you can't go home again. Well, I can't because my mom is gone, my dad's gone, my sister's gone. I'm the last one of the family, you know, and I was, of course, I was the youngest by far because I was almost, as they used to joke, almost an unexpected birth. It was just relatively late in my mom's life. I mean, not that late, but for that age, for that era, it was later than usual. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know. We will see. I'm hoping to see some old friends that I haven't seen since high school or university years. And I was back there, of course, for 6 years as the base public affairs officer at the Air Force Base. And those are among the happiest years of my life. I was doing a lot of things at the same time. Doing radio on the weekends. I had a band. I was singing with a big band. I had my own combo. We were doing gigs all over Vancouver Island and Vancouver at the same time that other folks were enjoying a lot of success. And so we're looking forward to that. So I want to show you this is incredible. Well, nothing's incredible anymore, folks. Because I read this story, I said, what did this MLA say that was so horrible? Because you read the CBC headline, a BC Premier calls out MLA's use of Nazi rhetoric in the legislature. So what was she saying? Was she using Nazi rhetoric? Defending Nazi rhetoric? No. Tara Armstrong was not defending Nazi rhetoric. She was saying what I say every week. The attitude of these First Nations chiefs is essentially racist and no different than what existed in Germany in the 1930s and 40s, where Jewish people were kicked out of their homes because they were the wrong race. And Aryan people, whatever that really means, and they never really adequately defined what an Aryan person was. That was the idea. But Aryan people could kick out Jewish people from their homes because they weren't real citizens. And Aryans had intrinsic rights that other people didn't have. And the Nazi doctrine that was beneath all of this was called Blut and Boden, or blood and soil, meaning that the real Germanic people owned Germany and nobody else was allowed to own a piece of it. So Tara Armstrong merely said, this is the attitude that the First Nations in BC are exhibiting through this idiotic policy of Aboriginal title, which means they have a racial right to take over your land, to kick you out of your house because you're not part of the special anointed race. That is racism. And David Eby, the intellectual runt that runs BC, always looks like he's on the verge of tears every time he makes any kind of public announcement, is demanding an apology for this, is denouncing Tara Armstrong for she wasn't using Nazi rhetoric. She was saying that's how the First Nations chiefs are talking. And it says Armstrong used the term blood and soil while speaking against the Comox Treaty Act legislation, which confirms the First Nations ownership of around 3,400 hectares of land on Vancouver Island. God, that could be near Comox with a C. It's spelled here K''OMOKS. So maybe that's the same area. I don't know. And she says, on the contrary, it promotes UN drips or undrips This is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Blood and soil theory, that people with indigenous history have their own inherent rights based upon what are described as inextricable links to the land. Yeah, that sounds like that to me. Armstrong also posted a video of herself making the statement in the legislature with the caption, "The NDP are blood and soil nationalists for the indigenous." Good for you. And of course, cowardly, craven David Eby on social media, Eby wrote, "This is a line that should never be crossed. Every party should immediately denounce this abhorrent comment." No, it's a truthful comment, and it adequately and accurately describes the racist attitude of First Nations in British Columbia. And I say this probably every week. So, but you read this misleading CBC article title, and it sounds like she's positively invoking this kind of rhetoric because she agrees with it. And she doesn't agree with it. That's the point. So, wanted to share that with you this morning because nothing gets me more upset than this irrational nonsense that people in this country should have special status and special rights because of their ethnicity or their race or their racial origin, however you want to put it, and that they have special rights that other people don't have. We're not all equal under the law. God help this country because we're not equal under the law anymore. I'd like to move back to BC. But if I buy a house, is it safe from being expropriated by some First Nations chief? This is going to lead, if this nonsense, if this madness doesn't stop in BC, it's going to lead to a mass exodus. People are already leaving the province because they're sick to death of the politics there. The insane, woke, left-wing, crap, progressive politics of the NDP and this premier. They're even sicker now that they're not sure they actually own the land that they bought. So, there we go. Now, I've got some other things to share with you this morning. We're just going to go through things this morning, and it's just going to be one of those. It's going to be a little more relaxed than usual. I want to show this to you. Now, I want to reiterate what I said yesterday. Mark Carney has killed the USMCA, or CUSMA, however you want to call it. It will be the USMA, or the USMA, the USMA trade deal. Canada will be excluded. Carney just killed CUSMA. To hide his failure, he created a committee and played with toy soldiers. And we analyzed why Prime Minister Mark Carney's trade negotiation strategy has failed, and why he has not negotiated a trade deal with the United States or a single other nation in a whole year since he was elected. CUSMA is history, and Carney knows that. So that's why he's created another committee, an economic team, and co-opted the usual red Tories to help the blame and further foster his one-party state. And that's exactly what's going on with Jean Charest, with Aaron O'Toole, with Lisa Raitt all joining Mark Carney's economic committee, trade committee. They're being co-opted. You bet they are. They're being co-opted. Oh, back to the. There you go. Now, let's go through. This is something we should have had up yesterday. From what I can see, this is real. But the people in Marilyn Gladgew's writing are apparently threatening or have started a fund, at least, to sue Marilyn Gladgew for what they call fraudulent misrepresentation for betraying her donors and crossing the floor. This was premeditated fraud against 40,597 voters, hundreds of volunteers and donors. This has never been done before from a search I did this morning. I can't find another example of an MP crossing the floor and getting sued by their constituents, by his or her constituents. But there it is. The only hope this country has is if that some of these MPs can be convinced to walk back.
You know, I talked to Andrew Scheer on the weekend, and obviously they are very frustrated, probably with good reason for this, and trying to make the case that this should actually reflect the results of the last election and not, in fact, the makeup of the House. I don't know if anyone has strong views on this. Althea, you might. I feel like you might have strong views.
I think it's overreach. First of all, we need to acknowledge that this majority comes from floor crossers. It does not make it illegitimate, but it's not like they had a majority at the polls. I can understand why they would want to reset committees. I don't blame them for doing that. I think it's a little bit much to add 2 Liberal MPs to mostly every committee that has a Liberal chair, because you want to ensure that you have a natural majority without asking the chair to weigh in.
Right.
Then on committees where they have an opposition chair, the Liberals are also giving themselves an extra person, so they also have a much larger majority on those committees. I could see them wanting to have 1 extra MP on these committees, but 2, I mean, come on. And I do think you have to like peel back the layers a little bit. This prime minister definitely has an authoritarian streak. We've seen this with all types of legislation. After the by-election, when he referred to his MPs in English as his deputies. At first he was saying that. I thought it was just an error in translation. He means député, and then he's just saying it in English. But then he keeps repeating it. So I'm starting to wonder if he actually thinks members of parliament are his deputies to do his bidding in the House of Commons, which is
Maybe
not their job.
maybe he's just like super bilingual all of a sudden.
No. You know, and there's like everybody is like does not want to say anything critical about this prime minister. It's quite shocking in this town, I have to say. So I find it very troubling that the Liberals are going down this road.
Good for you, Althea Raj. And finally, somebody in the mainstream media, and Andrew Coyne actually said it the week before, this prime minister is authoritarian. And I can't believe nobody in this town wants to criticize him. Because you're all bought and paid for. Yeah, listen to this.
Many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses.
From the United States, understanding their position, understand where it's in Canada's interest, when in our joint interests to be stronger together.
Many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses.
So we had to play that one twice because do you believe this? Mark Carney cannot stick to his own talking points from one day to the next. What does he really believe? That the United States is some sort of albatross around our neck and we'd be better off trading with China or the European Union? Then he turns around and says this. Does he know that people are going, finally, people will wake up and realize he's incompetent? O'Toole on Carney, I think the prime minister has a very good handle on international business negotiations. Do you agree with this? No, I don't.
I think the prime minister has a very good handle on international business negotiations. And I do think, compared to Prime Minister Trudeau, Prime Minister Carney really has reset the tone of relations between Canada and the U.S. We're being a lot more independent. We're looking to diversify. We want a good deal with the Americans, but we also want to show strength. So I think Prime Minister Carney has shown that. He does have to meet the expectations Canadians have upon him. So I do think Pierre and the Conservatives are doing their job in our democracy, holding him to account to commitments he's made. But bringing in these advisors, we're there just to help, just to provide some perspective, I think is a sign that the Prime Minister is going in for a good deal for the country, and I want to help in whatever way I can. I think the Prime Minister has a very good handle on.
All right, Aaron. You're just doing this because you want to be a part of the solution. Well, Mark Carney has never been, is not, and will never be part of the solution because he's not working for Canada. He's not working for Canada First or Canada Strong. He's working for Brookfield First and Brookfield Strong. And that's where he goes. I love this one. Here's Justin Trudeau. I know a bad memory. I want to know who's paying this clown $100,000 for a speaking engagement. I mean, I would not pay him $1,000, even if I had that to give away for him to speak at any event because it's all balderdash. Here, let's have a listen to what he has to say here.
To support people on the wealth generation without being part of the wealth generation that's happening. So what's going to happen is the corporate world is going to have to realize that if they don't start stepping up and realizing, no, there is a limit in terms of how much individual wealth we can get. We don't want to get to be in the business of running countries as corporates. We're not that. Some may want that, but it doesn't work. We need to figure out how to give communities and countries a tax base that allows them to say, look, if you as an accountant are about to be downsized from 5 days a week to 3 days a week because of AI, we're still going to be able to pay you for 5 days a week. Or we're still going to be able to pay you for 7 days a week because there's that much wealth created by AI to support.
This is absolute crap. AI is going to be stealing wealth for people like Palantir and these other oligarchs. And what the hell is Justin Trudeau blathering on about here? This is the guy who gets $100,000 for every speaking engagement. This is hilarious. This is funny.
Well, guess
Gonna get it for music there. Whoops. You know that. Anyway, hopefully I avoided to get demonetized for music. Happens all the time. But here's Mark Carney.
Okay, I'm going to take that as you saying that you don't have a timeline or
No,
date.
I wouldn't say that, but
You're not
I didn't say that.
You're not committing to one.
Nope, sorry, you're Bloomberg. You can't just read
asking
into
you.
my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the same question I've just
It's
asked.
part of our discussion.
So okay, I'm going to take that as you saying that you don't have a timeline.
All right, so here's the arrogant cuss, Mark Carney, talking to reporters like they're dirt, even though he owns them, they're in his pocket, and they do exactly what he says. Here's Melanie Jolie being honest about something.
Fundamentally, this is happening at a time where we are working on putting into place the vision of Prime Minister Carney and his speech in Davos, where what we did was really working on building middle powers together, bringing them together to build an important alliance that is, yes, on security, but also fundamentally on economic ties and aligning our industrial policies. And so this has been the core of what I'm doing, putting words into action, and it will be a pleasure for me to answer your questions. Maintenant, je vais juste répondre.
So this is Melanie Jolie. Now here's where we are. This is the crux of what I'm trying to say today. We're getting every indication from U.S. leadership that the deal that the USMCA, CUSMA, is over. And Canada will not be part of the next free trade agreement because Mark Carney has acted like an absolute fool on this file. But here again, is it every indication?
I think having some discipline on reminding folks how valuable it is. There really is no other choice. What I'll say is that the countries that are led by serious leaders, and I'll say President Sheinbaum is a serious leader in Mexico. When we came in and we were talking, Ambassador Greer was just there, we're talking to Mexico about this, and the president has spoken to, directly about this. They have been very serious. Look, we know the United States is our most important economic partner, that it is the policy of President Sheinbaum that the United States and Mexico will have a positive economic relationship, and that we know that we'll have some friction and we'll have to figure it out, but we're going to figure it out, right? This is the bottom line. There are other economies who decided to make it personal, and I think Carney has made it personal. I think it's political malpractice for the Prime Minister of a Canadian, of Canada to pit politically himself against any president. I don't care what the president is, who the president is, what party they represent. It's political malpractice. Canada is dependent upon the U.S. economy. That's just a fact, right? That's not hubris. That's not something that Canada needs to be concerned about. It's not something Canada can change, right? The fundamental fact is geography wins out. Canada is located where it's located. They can't move shop. They can have a weak economy that is underperforming and not doing well, and Carney can feel superior, or they can have an economy that participates with as a partner of the U.S. economy, and Carney can do what a grown-up should do, which is figure it out, and come like President Sheinbaum and decide that the United States and Canada will have a positive economic relationship. It's my job as a person who's supposed to protect Canadian jobs, Canadian citizens, and the Canadian economy to not let my ego and my feelings dictate what's best for my own economy.
That's a very powerful statement. Do you think that this will have implications for USMCA, for the negotiations between the US, Mexico, and Canada?
Yeah, of course it is. It just can't, right? Not like, look, was Ambassador Greer in Canada? Did he meet with Carney? No. Was he in Mexico on Monday? Did he meet with President Sheinbaum? Yes. We have issues with Mexico we're still working through, but Mexico intends on coming to an agreement with us. We intend on coming to agreement with them. The grown-ups are in the room talking because there's a grown-up in the presidency in leadership there. And I would argue there's not a grown-up in Canada in charge there. You don't go out of your way to antagonize the leader of the country that you are absolutely existentially tied to. It's just political malpractice.
Wow.
I think having some discipline.
Now, I'm the first one to say there are days Donald Trump is trying. He's doing some crazy things on Truth Social. He's saying some crazy things about the war in Iran. But no matter, he is president of the United States, probably for another 2 years or so. And that's who Mark Carney should be negotiating with, and that's who Mark Carney has to get serious with. And stop insulting the United States, stop causing dissension, get on with this trade deal, because if we lose our trade deal with the United States, it is going to be hard times for Canada. And we talked about this yesterday. The House of Commons Standing Committee on Ethics, or the House of Commons Standing Committee on Ethics, has said that Mark Carney or any prime minister should divest themselves of their investments, of their stock portfolios, and what they, especially when 91% of Mark Carney's investments are in the United States. And here is this guy going on every day about how much the United States is an encumbrance to Canada and how much we have to distance ourselves from the United States. The man is a walking, talking hypocrite. No question about that. This is interesting. Here's the Premier of Nova Scotia, another red Tory, who's saying, we'll do that again if necessary. Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia, defends his actions of banning the public from the province's forested areas, despite a court ruling calling out his failure to consider Canadian charter rights.
Will you appeal the decision?
I don't think so. I'm not aware of an appeal being prepared. It's kind of come and gone. And as we move forward, I, as Premier, will certainly look at circumstances that are in front of me at a moment in time. And I will always do what is necessary to keep people safe, to keep property safe every single time. We'll make that decision. We'll do that again if necessary.
So it's not safe for people to walk in the woods. That's what this was all about. This was about a Canadian citizen being fined tens of thousands of dollars for walking in the woods. That's not making Canadians safer or people in Nova Scotia safer. This is good. Here's Mark Carney testing the $200 million spaceport in Nova Scotia. This is the biggest joke I've heard. This is what $200 million is going to get you. A concrete slab in a gravel pit. Is our country going to get any more ridiculous than this? A concrete slab in a gravel pit. This is what we get for $200 million. What is this about? Distraction, distraction, distraction. It's all about ensuring we don't pay attention to how badly this country is being mismanaged. So this is great.
Did you know the world is more dangerous and divided? Dude, you realize I live on the streets because of you, right? Are you an idiot? The world is a more dangerous and divided place, kid.
Mister, are you stupid or something?
The world is more dangerous and divided.
As you can see, my elbows are not up. Now fuck off.
Whoops.
The world is more dangerous and divided than ever. Wait till the puck drops, sissy baby. The world is more divided and dangerous than ever.
Sorry, buddy, I don't have TDS.
All right, that was obviously AI. But interesting take. Now, disappointed again in my old friend Rupa Subramanya. Why is she comparing Pierre Poilievre to Jagmeet Singh? I don't get this at all. It says, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. From Loblaws to Brookfield, the names change, but the politics don't. It's the same populist script with different actors. I'm sorry, I don't see any similarity between Pierre Poilievre and Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh was not a populist. He was a socialist, bordering on a Marxist. Pierre Poilievre is not a socialist. He is really a populist. So I don't get the similarity, commonality, or comparison at all. This is incredible. A new report on ethics in office has found that Mark Carney is just a phone call away from Brookfield executives when they want to talk to him. Do you think this is why Mark Carney is shutting down all the committees?
I happen to believe that Canadians need to have confidence in their designated public office holders. We heard testimony throughout the course of our study. One in particular disturbed me, and that was the fact that the Brookfield CFO had a meeting with Prime Minister Carney, basically the ability to make a phone call, and he ended up in the Prime Minister's office, despite the fact that an ethics screen has been set up against Brookfield. So I think that should concern anyone, that there's that much access to the Prime Minister's office by people that a so-called ethics screen, and that's why we made one of the recommendations that the ethics screen actually should be applied by nonpartisan people, not by political staffers who are appointed by the Prime Minister to work under his command. As Mr. Hardy said, Mr. Sabia had made it very clear that he divested himself of his Brookfield assets so that he would not give the appearance, real or otherwise, that he was conflicted through his Brookfield investments. So you know, I'm not going to make any apologies for where I stood on this report, and I think it's a strong report. I also think that it can provide Canadians with a lot of confidence that the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Act is doing its job. If these recommendations are in fact applied by the government, and revisiting the laws we did from 2014. This has been 10 years since this act has been reviewed. I think we modernized the act to provide confidence to Canadians that the act needs to be strengthened and needs to be modernized as well.
We're going to emphasize this again today. Carney lied during the election when he claimed he owned nothing but cash and real estate. Let's listen to this again.
I own nothing now. I came into public life at a time of crisis. I put my hand up because of the crisis, because of what's represented by that bridge, what's represented by the threats to these good men and women of Unifor and their colleagues across southwestern Ontario and across Canada. I came in. What I've done is put all my affairs in order well in advance. I own nothing but cash and personal real estate. So, and that's not going to change. in public life. That's not going to change. It's actually quite straightforward.
So then, just to be clear, then going forward, you have no potential equity stake, no potential stock option, or any other potential future payments that you currently anticipate could either strike or Brookfield.
So what I have is cash, personal real estate, and their assets all those assets were divested into a blind trust, which is managed by a trustee. And it literally means exactly what it says. I don't know what's in it.
Mark Carney, blind trust. Scott Bessent, who is the Treasury Secretary in the Trump administration, says there's no such thing as a blind trust. It's a lie. And Mark Carney lied about what he actually owns. He is potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He forgot to mention the 103 different conflicts of interest. He forgot to mention the 530 investments he has in U.S. companies. All of these are generating wealth for him in a blind trust controlled by his chief of staff. That's blind. Canada deserves better. Canada deserves better than this man. And it's time for Mark Carney to sell his stock options. So here we go for now. I want to show you the merchandise. I'm coming back with a few key messages here.
Who cares?
I got some great merchandise there, and I encourage you to have a look at that and get some if you can. It would be appreciated. So Canada is at a crossroads right now. I cannot overemphasize. We are in serious trouble as a country. We're losing our freedom of speech. I say that, I have to say it every day because some people find it hard to believe. We're going to wake up in a couple of weeks, maybe less, and we will not have free speech, and it's just going to get worse. And it's going to get worse. We are losing our property rights in this country. And I encourage you, I put up a video this morning based on my commentary from yesterday of Glenn Beck talking about Canada. Some things Glenn Beck didn't even know, by the way. Glenn Beck doesn't seem to know about the Aboriginal title and how that's destroying property rights in British Columbia. But he brought up a number of issues in terms of how Canada has become a country without basic democratic freedoms and rights anymore. And that's where we are as a country. God help us. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep resolving to resist. Thank you again, all of you who have been so supportive over the last 6 weeks dealing with my mom's death. We'll be going out for that memorial service in 2 weeks. Thank you for all your kind words of support. And we're going to be hopefully interviewing. I want to get Kayla Pollock on the show next week to talk about what's happening to her with this incredible vaccine impact support program, which of course used to be the vaccine injury support program, but they took injury out of that because they don't want to admit people who are injured, just impacted. One of those weasel words, right? I'm always talking about the weasel words that advertisers use, but politicians have inherited. So what you hear in talking points from politicians are essentially a lot of weasel words and phrases tied together. So it really doesn't mean very much. And it can mean whatever the politician wants it to mean at any given time. And that's where Canada is in its politics right now. It's a horrible place to be. We're going to keep fighting. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I will be back again tomorrow on Sunday. I got some writing to do this afternoon. There's lots to do. Thanks for watching. God bless you all, and Godspeed to all you do. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I'm going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Crayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.